Morning. We're live, and we're going to be talking about the e-collar today. Yeah, I brought an e-collar here to show you guys, give a demonstration or give some type of idea of how it's used, how we condition it, and how we teach with it. All that stuff, and how we stop unwanted behaviors, all that stuff. So today, we're talking about the e-collar, okay? How to condition it, and how to teach a dog that this sensation that they feel on their neck is a form of us communicating with them. In the form of command training, we're telling them, when you feel this, there's a puzzle for you to solve, and when you solve it, this turns off, okay? So we'll be discussing pressure on and off, that kind of stuff, and how to condition a dog to this so they understand that it's correlated to their behavior and to you asking something of them, okay? Because when dogs come in here, they don't know, usually, anything about the e-collar. So welcome, good morning. It's Thursday. We're talking about e-collar conditioning and training today. I'm going to give you a little demonstration. Thank you for joining, everybody. Hopefully the audio is good and everything. I'm sure one of you would tell me if it wasn't. All right. So on here, I'm sure a lot of people have used the e-collar or are using the e-collar, so you're probably pretty familiar with it, but there's probably some people that might watch this that aren't familiar with it, so I'll keep that in mind too, and I'll start with just like going over the setup here, the remote, okay? We're an e-collar program, so all of our dogs are trained up to be off-leash trained, which means that they don't need a leash to perform their commands, okay? They need this collar right here, which goes up to a half a mile away, and it's great. So basically, here's your remote. This goes in your hand. And here is the collar, which goes on the dog's neck. It goes right here. It's a muscle stimulator, so it goes right where the muscles are, okay? It's not a bark collar, so it doesn't go on the trachea. It goes right there, okay? Now, the way this works is I have a dial here on the top. As you can see, this is at 0 currently. As I dial up, forgive me, everything's going to be backwards. As I dial up on the dial, you can see it goes up very gradually. Look at it go up 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then high, which is 100, and all the way back down. So when you feel it on your skin, you can't tell the difference. Most people don't feel it until about 10 or 20, between 10 and 20, because it's so, I can't feel it. Like, watch, if I turn this on right now, put it on my hand, start dialing up. Okay, I start to feel it now. What am I at? I'm at a 12. Okay, I can't tell any difference between 12 and 13, really, a little. You have to really be paying attention. It's super gradual. Okay, there's a 20. Now if that's on me and I feel that 20, that's a nice reminder for me. I'm like, okay, that will snap me out of whatever I'm doing. But then it just goes up gradually all the way to 100 and getting more and more intense, this vibrating, tingly, the feeling, the sensation when you put it on yourself, what it feels like is if your foot falls asleep and then you try to step, that's what it feels like. Very tingly. It's a muscle stimulator. Okay. This is our setup. We have our buttons on the side, the 2 S's. That's how we get our stim. I'm not going to get too into how to use it. I want to get into the training behind it, how to get a dog to be conditioned to this, to understand that we're communicating with them and that their behavior is correlated and that we're going to be asking them to solve a puzzle. So this is pretty much what we're looking. I'm looking to ask the dog to try to do something, right? Because I'm command training. So I might ask the dog to go to the place bed, right? I want the dog to know after I say a command, like place, once this turns on, okay, it doesn't turn off until they complete the task. So once I say place, and if you don't know what place is, it's a dog bed. When we say place, we have the dog go on and lay down and relax until they're released. I can say place, I can turn this on, and then I can guide the dog on the bed and turn it off. So the dog will learn that pressure is just telling me whether or not I've completed the task. It's an extra bit of information to let me know that I've done it right. Now, this is a great way to start conditioning the dog, just starting to do command training. But there is a step that I do before that I think is a little helpful with a dog who doesn't know anything on the collar. You can literally put the collar on a dog and find a level that the dog barely feels in a quiet room, okay? Calm dog, hopefully. And you can just let the dog go on a leash, like a 6-foot leash. Let them go, hit the end of the leash like they're gonna start walking away from you, and just start giving it some stim, some pressure. Tap, tap, tap. And what you're looking for, everyone gets hung up on the numbers, but what you want to think about is reactions, okay? Because the number's going to be different for each dog, but we're looking for a certain reaction. So the reaction I'm looking for in this particular case, when the dog's new at this, is just kind of like a little bit of a head turn, or their ears kind of moving back. They feel it, but it doesn't startle them, but they feel it. Right then, when they feel that, then I can start interacting with them. So I go tap, 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 and the dog's like, "What is that?" And then I can start interacting with the dog with the leash, saying, "Come here, come here." And as they start headed towards me, it's like praise, praise, praise. Keep walking backwards, and then they come up to you, you pet them, and let them go back out. That's one way to do it, where you can just give them pressure and they don't know what it means, and then you guide them towards you with the leash and give them praise. Next thing you know, a few reps down the road, you're tapping on the collar before you go to give them leash guidance. The dog's already looking at you, and you're like, "Yes, good. Yeah, that sensation means look at me, because I'm going to be asking you to do things in the beginning. So yeah, this is me." Okay? So if you go on YouTube, you can find people doing that, conditioning the e-collar like that, where they'll have it in a quiet room and they'll just be tapping on the e-collar as the dog walks away from them. And the dog kind of turns around and looks at them, and they're like, "Good, yeah, come here," and like interact with them. So they start to understand this is kind of you tapping them on the shoulder, getting their attention. So you're really just turning the dog around and they're looking at you. You're saying, "This is good job," or they're coming towards you, "Good job." And then you're letting them free again. And then you're tapping again, just so the dog understands that's you. Okay? That's one way to do it. A way that I'll do it with dogs that I feel like would get a little too overwhelmed with it just being a new sensation, even though it's not uncomfortable, it's just something they don't understand. One of the ways you can do it with these types of dogs is I could get them in a training room, again, quiet, put like a resource in the room of some sort that I want to disagree with, like something small, nothing that's going to get the dog bonkers, just small. Like I might take like a little piece of food or something, like a kibble, nothing too high value. Put it on the ground. The dog, with my hand holding it there with one hand. Here's my kibble on the ground. The dog comes over to try to sniff it, and I say no, snap my fingers, and tap the e-collar. Okay, and the dog's going to go, "What was that?" And now I can put the food away, because the food was just to start a conversation that made sense. Like, that's my food, that's why. And then as the dog's looking at me, I go, snap, and then tap on the e-collar. Something mild, and that depends. The reaction I'm looking for is just that. They feel it, but they're not sure what it is. I'm not looking for anything punishing, but I'm looking to go snap with my fingers and then tap. And what happens is the dog hears you and sees you direct your snap at them, and then they feel the tap. They assume you did that. Works for me. It works for me. And so that's a good way to start, so then you can see that the dog's starting to feel that tap, and they understand it's you. You're going to be communicating with them that way. Doesn't take too long to get that little process going, however you do it. Okay? And then you can get to just teaching the commands slowly, because the command training is going to further educate your dog on the collar. Okay? It's going to further educate them. So if you say now you did this and your dog understands that this pressure means you're talking to them, right? Now you're in a good place where you can say, "I want to teach you a command." So now we're still in this training room, and this is, same session. And, I'm not saying this is exactly the order I take. I'm giving you an example. You absolutely could do this. Now I did that to the dog, and the dog understands that the sensation on its neck is somehow correlated to me asking it to do something and its behavior, and it's got a loose baseline understanding that that's going to be me. Okay, so now I'm going to bring out a place bed, let's say, and I'm going to say, "Fido, and they're going to look at me, and I'm going to say, place. And the dog's going to be like, I don't know what that means, but it's obvious that you're talking to me. See, the thing is, this is what the dog needs to learn. We're conversing. When I say your name and then I start looking like I'm talking to you, I'm expecting you to talk back. I'm expecting to get engaged in a conversation. So why the e-collar is great is because once I say Fido, place, usually in that moment, any other dog, if there's no food involved or something, they're like, yeah, and they just walk away. But because of what we're doing, I say Fido, place, and as soon as I say place, I go bing on the e-collar, that low number that the dog feels but isn't uncomfortable. They just understand that that's you kind of tapping them on the shoulder. Bing, I come in with that number. So Fido, they look at me, place. Now this is on, okay? Now this is just humming. This is on the dog's neck, just humming. It's just going, And now Fido's like, okay, what do I do? And I'm like, place. And Fido's like, I don't know what place means. And I point to the place bed and they're like, okay. And then remember, this is on the whole time. And the dog's like, okay. And then I take the leash and I guide them over to the place bed and then it turns off. Okay? And the dog's like, oh, it went away. And I say, good. All that information the dog has, because the reason why this is beautiful, not only is this going to be the correction device eventually, right now it's the teaching device, because it's just given that low hum that tells them when it stops, you're on the right place. So you've completed the task. So I say place, this turns on. That tells them that they have to try something. I guide them on the bed because they don't know what to do. It turns off. Good. They remember that. Leave them there for a second. Break, let them off, give them a breather, pet them on the head, take 30 seconds, and then it's like, Fido, place. This is on. Now this is just on, just in the background, humming while I'm communicating with him, pointing to the bed. Now pointing to the bed is a little more obvious because I just put him on the bed. Maybe he starts headed towards the bed without the leash, which would be great because we're going to get him on off leash, right? But either way, whether he gets on the bed the second or third time, they get on pretty quick. This turns off, and now they're relying on this stim to tell them whether or not they're getting there, not my leash. They're starting to learn that game. They're starting to learn that the human's going to talk to me. They're going to ask me to try to do something. I might not know what they're asking, but this will turn on to let me know whether I'm hot or cold, right? Another example, if I'm teaching a dog sit, if you're teaching a dog, these are ways you can do it. These aren't ways you have to do it, by the way. There's a lot of different ways to use an e-collar. This is pressure on, pressure off, basic stuff. Basic stuff. Now you're like, Fido. Maybe this is a different session. Sit. Stim turns on. The dog's getting used to this now. So the stim's telling him, it's giving him motivation to try something. What does sit mean? The dog doesn't know what sit means. Then you can while this is humming, you can go over there and give it some leash guidance or put a couple fingers on its butt. As soon as that butt hits the ground, this turns off. Good. And the dog's like, okay, I'm getting this. It speeds up the learning because you have this extra layer of information just humming. But the beautiful thing about this is eventually this is going to be the correction device that holds the dog accountable for doing the commands and staying in the commands. But right now, it can be just educational. It can just be almost like leash pressure, guiding a dog somewhere, and then the leash pressure goes away. This can start guiding a dog once they understand that it means that they need to try to do what you're saying. And that's why you see in our videos, like 3 days in, the dog doesn't know place, but I can say the dog's name, and I can point to the place bed. The dog kind of gets an idea of what I'm saying, and then when I turn the stim on, the dog's like, okay, I'm going to go try. I'm going to go over to him and try to do what I think he's saying. And it's incredibly helpful. Because now we got a dog who's trying to turn off the pressure, and they know that if it has to do with what you're asking. Okay? Now let's say we fast forward this a week. We've been doing this. We've been teaching place with it. You don't want to keep using pressure on and pressure off once the dog understands the command. You need to evolve them. That's the training wheels. You need to evolve them to the next step. So let's say we go back to the place command. The dog knows when I say place to get on the bed now. It doesn't need this anymore. It doesn't need me to hold this down for it to figure out. It doesn't need that anymore. It knows it has its reps. Now what we want to do is teach the dog that same sensation can hold them accountable for either not doing the command when asked or breaking it prematurely. And we do this with all the commands. We do this with place, down, sit, heel, and come. We proof them all. But now the dog doesn't need it. He understands place, right? He knows what it means. So now I'm going to add in a distraction that's small enough to make him hesitate on listening, right? So now I'm going to be like this, because the dog needs to learn this. They need to learn that this can get hotter when they're not listening, because that's the whole name of the game. They need to learn that. So now I'll take like a squeaky ball or something in the room, something that's going to be a mild distraction. It's going to get the dog thrown off a little bit, and they might not listen to you because now they have something to pay attention to that's more interesting. That's going to give us an opportunity. I'm going to say place, and then I'm going to squeak the ball, or vice versa, squeak the ball first and then say place, whatever. Get the dog's attention on the ball, say place, watch the dog ignore you, turn on the e-collar pressure at the level you usually use, watch the dog ignore the e-collar pressure. This is the whole point of bringing in a mild distraction. And then, as it's on, because it's on and they're ignoring it, you do the old dial up method. You dial up, and we're not looking for a number. We're looking for a reaction to the dog. We're looking for, we say place, the dog's hyper-focused on the ball. We turn on the e-collar pressure of what we normally use. The dog's ignoring it. Now I dial up, and I see a dog go, whoa, 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 that's getting a little too warm for me. Then I'm going to hang right there. You can even back off a couple numbers after you get that reaction, because we're just looking to get the dog back tuned in. But we want them to know there's consequences the longer you take to solve the problem. So now it's on something more, a little bit more uncomfortable. If it was an 8 that I was on, I might have ended up on a 15 or a 20. Once I get that reaction that the dog is ready to comply, I will go down a little bit usually, but I still hang it on something that's mildly uncomfortable, send them to place, and then turn it off. So they learn a life lesson. Okay, you can't just take your time on these commands. These commands are to be taken seriously. And so what do we do there, though? We set the dog up to not listen, though, so that we could justify going to a bit of a higher level so that the dog could learn what to do with that. We're teaching them what to do with a correction, essentially, before it's the real deal. Now, that's for non-compliance of getting on the command, and then we'll let the dog relax on the bed, release them, have a little intermission, like time in between the rep. We're not going right back to the next rep. Something in between, maybe let them out the potty, come back in, and then it's like squeaky ball. The dog's like squeaky ball level again. If the dog doesn't go immediately, just click on the mild one, because we're going to get the dog off held pressure now. He doesn't need it. He knows what to do. So we're going to tap if the dog doesn't get on at the low level, not at the correction level. And we'll see the dog just need a tap, and they get right on the bed with urgency at a mild level. And now they're respecting that low level now because they know it can go higher. Okay? And so you see a dog get knowledge now. They get knowledge, okay? And so the other way is, while the dog is on the bed, you have to place it, you have to proof it, the dog not breaking the command prematurely. So once the dog understands to get on, we got to teach them not to get off. And the first time they go to get off the bed, we set it up. It's easy usually, because you can either walk away and the dog steps off, crouch down or something, or roll a ball across the room and the dog steps off. You say no, and as soon as you say no, this turns on as soon as the dog steps off the bed. But it's at that low level. It's at that level that the dog feels but is not concerned about. And then the dog says, well, what do I do now? Because we need to teach the dog what to do with the correction. You understand? So this isn't a full-blown correction. This is like teaching the dog about correction. So they go to get off for the first time, and it's like, it's on. And as they walk further away from the bed, I dial up just enough to get a reaction of like, oh, maybe I should head back towards the bed. And then I'll dial down a little bit as they head back towards the bed. Most of the time, the dogs get on the bed on their own. Like, it's 50-50. Most dogs, I would say half dogs get right on the bed. The other half, you get to grab the leash, guide them on the bed, turn it off. Okay? And the dog's like, oh, okay, so I can't get off this bed. And then you're like, well, you can, but only when I release you. And so then the dog gets back on the bed, and they stay there. You redo the trigger, whatever it was that got the dog to get off the bed. They don't get off the bed. You say, good job, right? Wait a second, and then release them. Break, and guide them off if they don't step off. And so they can see, oh, when you release me, I can get off. But if you don't release me, this will turn on. So you taught them about the consequence. You even gave them a mild taste of what it's going to be, right? And that's today's lesson. And then once they're a little familiar with that and they know how to receive a correction, now we're going to try to get to the point where we're really proofing the place command, where we're really making it difficult to listen, so that when the dog doesn't, we can give a real correction, like a real life one, and the dog knows what to do with it and remedies it and learns from it. And now the dog's ready. The dog needs to know how to take a full-on correction for breaking a command or being non-compliant and just go and do the command and relax. And so we get ourselves there. It's not like the first rep is like, bam, punishment, and then the dog, you want to give them little chunks that they can understand, and it comes together a lot quicker than you think. So that's just the place command. I mean, think of it this way: when we go, like, the recall is an amazing tool on here, because you have a beep, right? So you can condition a dog for this beep, and it goes up to a half a mile away, means recall, so they come back to you. Literally, you could be on a hiking trail, you can't see your dog anymore, they're too far away, you hit a button, beep, here they come right back to you. Now, how that's trained is basically it's the same stuff. You're going to notice that what I just taught you with place is going to be the same concept for every command. So basically, the dog goes out in front of you, and then you go beep. And as you hold that beep, as soon as it stops, if you keep holding the button, it goes to stim. All right, so theoretically, the dog could be out in front of you. You could go beep, and then as soon as it hits stim at a level that catches the dog's attention, and they say, I don't know what this means, then you can say come and guide the dog towards you with a leash or whatever you're doing. And then the dog gets towards you, gets to you, good boy, pet him on the head, let him back out. 30 seconds later, beep, turns to stim, guide the dog to you, right? The dog will learn that beep before it goes to stim. Eventually, you just have to go beep. This means to come to you. And you're like, yes, that is what it means. And you'll see that happen pretty quick, where you'll hit the beep and the dog will turn around and come to you. If you're doing it correctly, it'll happen within the first session. And now that's a dog who understands what the beep means, but that is not a dog who doesn't, it's not a dog who's been proofed on the command or has a high level of understanding of how to use it. It's just the beginning. Now we're going to go out and teach the dog, just like on the place bed, how a correction is applied and how to deal with it. So now that the dog understands that the beep means to come to me, now I need to add a mild distraction in. So that the dog chooses not to, so that I have justification to go up to a little bit of a higher number, so the dog gets motivated to now solve the problem that I've asked them to solve, or do the command that I've asked them to do. And so the dog, let's say I recall the dog, but I've let another dog out, so that dog's distracting it, or whatever you have available to you. You can even take the door if you're in the room and you jiggle the handle. Now the dog thinks they're going for a walk, and you walk back and you recall them, but they don't want to come because they want to go out the door. That might even work. But you beep, you turn on the stim that's low, the dog doesn't listen because you put something in the room that you knew they would choose over top of you. You dial up. So I go, come. The dog doesn't come. I turn on the stim. They're still not listening to the stim. That's the point. I don't want them to, because it's too low. And then I want to dial up until I see on their face motivation to want to turn off that stim. Now I know I have enough of a level. And I might even go down after I hit that level, because I know I've already switched their gears. They're looking to turn it off. And then it's another beep, come, and the dog usually will come right to you. But they need to know that it'll go up into something uncomfortable if they don't listen, and that's what keeps them listening. I mean, that's what keeps us in line too as a society. We know that. So the dog gets conditioned early on that it means I'm going to be asking you to do something, and this will turn on until you've completed it. And here's the thing. If you're trying and you look at me and you try to do what I'm saying, you're going to be able to figure it out, because it's not that difficult, and I'm good at breaking it down in bite-sized chunks that you can understand. So as long as you're trying, everything's going to be fine. It's when you stop trying and you stop listening is when it takes too long, and this pressure dials up to something that now you care about, and now you have to go learn how to handle this correction and remedy it by doing what you're asked. And so a dog can get really good at this. The end product is you ask any of the 5 commands. If the dog is compliant within the first second, meaning they do it, you're golden. You don't have to do anything. If a second goes by and your dog's non-compliant, we're going to tap on a mild correction. Just bing. And then it's a correction. It's not information. It's like, it's a mild correction. And then the dog complies, good. If you have to ask a second time, you're going to give a firmer correction. So the dog, it's just like a traffic ticket. Every time you get pulled over, it's going to be a little bit higher. So if I start a conversation with the dog and I say, Fido, come. And Fido's like, I'm not coming. Then I'll tap at something mild and I'll say, come. And then if he comes, he's good. But if he still says, I'm not coming, then I'm going to go up to something firmer, correct him, and we'll watch Fido recall. Right? And then Fido will learn the next day to, when you say come, just come. Okay, so now you can hold your dog accountable for a recall, which is the world's best command because you can always get your dog back to you. It's the safest thing. It's the best thing to have out in public because it keeps everything safe. Okay, so this is an amazing tool. And we didn't even talk about stopping unwanted behaviors. Once a dog's conditioned to this, then you can go out and you teach them no on it. If I say no and then you feel stim, that was me. That was me disagreeing, and that's where the correction came from. So then you can literally start correcting all the stuff you don't like: barking, whining, jumping, pulling, digging, humping, marking, everything, anything and everything, eating cat poop, eating shit, jumping on counters, chewing on furniture, biting people. You can stop it all. Chasing your own tail, going after the vacuum, all of it can be stopped once the dog's conditioned to this. Yeah, so it's a great tool. It's a wonderful tool, and it's you getting good at conditioning dogs to it is part of the profession. It's something you really want to get smooth at. Is getting the dog to understand that this is correlated to its own behavior and to you asking it to do something, or eventually asking it to stop something. Once the dog understands it, once they're operant to this system, it's easy peasy, okay? Is it bad if the dog knows the remote is you? My dog will start to comply just with me picking up the remote. I don't think it's bad. I think it's natural because there's a visual so that the dogs know that. So they know that that's your way of correcting them. They're not dumb. They see you press the button, they see you pick it up, and then they feel the collar that they know it. So you'll see dogs, if they see this in your hand, it's like seeing a cop with a gun. It's like, oh, they got a gun on them. It's like, oh, they got a way to hold me accountable, that I care about. So I don't think it's bad that they know it's us, because the thing is I think it's going to bring them, that's actually going to bring them more confidence or more, it's going to make them, I feel like, less stressed about the process of learning off from this if they understand it's you. It's like, that's me. So I don't think it's a problem. Where it's a problem is if the collar's not on and the dog doesn't listen without the collar. That's a whole, this is what we say to people with this program, or any e-collar program, especially ours. It's like, it's an e-collar program. So if the collar's on, the program's on. But if the collar's off, the program's off. And that's not to say you can't get a dog to listen to you without an e-collar. You can. But this is the reality of it. If you ask a dog to do something and they don't, or if you ask them to stop doing something and they don't, and then you don't have a way to correct them because you don't know of any other way to correct them but the e-collar, but whatever device you're using, then the dog gets that experience of hearing you say something and disagree, but them not listening. And that starts, and all it takes is one time, 2 times, and now the dog's starting to slip and not listen because you didn't follow through. And so if you want to be able to get your dog off the collar, your dog has to believe that you will correct them without the collar in a way that they care about. And that's how that works. So that's how I got my guy. My guy's not on an e-collar because his corrections come from me, my Riggins, and I'll use an e-collar just for convenience, hikes and stuff, don't want to pay attention. But him and he knows that I'll do it without the e-collar. And so, therefore, he listens to me without the e-collar. We do not teach our clients dog whispering techniques and how to correct a dog without the e-collar here. So everybody who leaves here, they're on an e-collar. And I think that's for the best because, it takes a long time to learn how to do the dog whispering stuff. People don't have the time to learn that. They don't have the time. They're too busy. They need, it's much easier for them to be able to click here, and all the trainings on here. That's what's great if you go to a good board and train, is the associations are also on here. So if you do it right, you got the state of mind training, and everything's captured in this stem. That's the association to this stem. So an owner can just literally pick up the remote, and if the dog's being fussy, they can just click it and the dog's not fussy in whatever context, because the stem also tells them to relax. Yeah, that's the way that we're conditioning it here. Okay, so listen, this is a brilliant tool. And if it's used right, it is the best tool. If there was only one tool that I could use, it would be this one, a slip lead too. Well, I might take this over top of a slip lead these days because of the off-leash training. You can really get, once I get a dog, listen to this. Once I get a dog who understands recall, which is the first thing I go for, beep means to come to my feet and stay there. I can do that pretty quick. And once I can do that, I can start conversations with any dog that comes in through here, and they can't leave the conversation. Once you start using recall as a way of like talking to the dog, so it's like, hey Fido, I want to teach you sit right now, but you're not in the mood to learn sit. So whenever I'm trying to teach you sit, you're not paying attention. You're walking away from me. You're in la la land. I'm sick of fighting with you for your attention. I don't want to have to go grab food. I don't want to have to keep correcting you on the leash to get you to look at me. So here's what we're going to do. Recall. That's all because that's the first thing I teach. So I'm going to recall you. I'm not going to say sit because you don't know it. I'm not going to say stay because you don't know it. I'm just going to recall you. You're going to come to my feet. I'm going to pat you on the head. And then I'm going to stand there silently, and you're going to walk away, and I'm going to correct and recall again. And you're going to come back to me, and I'm going to pet you. And then you're going to walk away because I'm just standing there, and then I'm going to correct and recall you, and eventually you're going to go, what the fuck? And then you're going to sit, and you're going to look directly into my eyes, and I'm going to say, good. Right? Good. Good. You came to me, you sat, and you said, what would you like? That's state of mind training. I'm not just going to reward every time the dog comes to me. They come to me, but they're not paying attention, the mind's not right. I'm just going to stand there quietly. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're going to make a mistake, and then we're going to repeat. But you're not allowed to leave the conversation. You're not allowed to leave it. Now you have to sit and say, fine, what is it that you want? And then they look at you, and then I can say, sit. So it not only is it a good teaching mechanism because it allows the dog to explore the options without me holding them there with a leash, but it adjusts the attitude. It's like it doesn't go away. The problem doesn't go away just because you walk to the other side of the room. Okay, I'm going to keep recalling you, and this collar can get pretty hot. So depending on how bad you want to go away, if you're really trying to run away, it can get hot. So the dog learns they can't leave your conversation because you can always just recall them right back to you. And then I make it easier for them as soon as they give me attention. As soon as they're like, okay, what do you want? Then I start talking to them more. Then I start giving them information. Well, I'd like it if you'd sit. They sit. Good boy. Break. That's all I wanted. They're like, that's all you wanted? Jesus. And it's like, yeah, that's all I wanted. I just wanted you to come to me because I asked you to. And then I was going to try to teach you sit. But you're not paying attention. So I use that recall to get a dog to really buy into me because there's nothing they can do. I'm not talking to them enough for them to know what to do. They're just trying things. So they don't want to pay attention anyway. That's the point. They're ignoring you anyway. And I don't want to beg them for their attention. So I just let them go and make mistakes. And then they eventually come back to me and they're like, okay, what do you want? And then I teach them, and they learn to pay attention to you. They learn, like when they start to feel stim, if they're unsure, let me look you in the eyes because I know you're going to give me the answer, and then we can move on. And that's how we start. And so I teach the recall, and then I use that recall just to keep a dog in a conversation. When I want to teach you place, and I'm trying to tell you to go on the place bed, but you're going in the opposite direction, I'm just going to recall you, to the point where you're looking at me, and then I'm going to ask again. And I'm going to ask again. And eventually you're going to get it right, and you're going to go, I'm just staying on this bed so he doesn't ask me again. Does this ever cause dogs to then not want to leave your side on break? Well, yeah, it can if you do it too much. So like, you've watched me before. When I go outside, there's a lot of space in between the conversation. So if I recall a dog and I do this whole thing, then when I release them, I'm not recalling them again immediately. and I'll walk around and I'll encourage them to go sniff a tree over here and then a tree over there. And I'll look for a reason to recall dogs. So especially in the first couple of days, especially while I'm teaching the command, I'm looking for a reason to apply it. So if the dog decides to run away, then I'll apply a recall. Or if the dog decides to not follow us as a pack, meaning we're moving but it stays far behind, then I'll recall it. Just to address the attitude, but also get a rep of recall in and teach. But it's also the dog's realizing you're only getting recalled when you're running away, when you're thinking about running away, or you're only getting recalled when you're so far away. In the beginning, I'm not just doing rep after rep after rep for no reason, just to teach the command. I'm giving it context and I'm giving it understanding right off the bat. Have you seen a dog just freeze with a correction? Yes, that's how I've gone to the style that I'm doing now. Like the old way that I think that I was taught to do it was, they weren't doing tone recall, but they were doing just recall. And you would say, come, dog wouldn't come. You would stim, the dog wouldn't do anything, and then you pop. That's the old thing. It's like command, e-collar, pop, and it heads the dog in your direction, and you're like, praise the dog. Now, there's a reason why I do it the way that I do it now, which is I let a dog out into our social yard, which is fenced, and I don't put a leash on the dog, a long line on the dog. I let them out. They assume it's a potty break, and then they're sniffing around. They get across the lawn. I beep on the collar. I'm not outside with them. I let them out and I'm watching them through the window. I beep on the collar, and the dog's like, what the hell is that? I watch them go like, what the hell is that? And then I give a couple stims at that level that I was telling you about that catch the dog's attention. They're like, what does this mean? Like, what's going on right now? And then I open up the door, and they're already going to run to me. And then I say, Fido, come. And they come bolting inside. Usually, sometimes they come right to me. Sometimes they go past me. If they go past me, it's just beep, 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 stim. Come, Fido. They turn around. I start engaging with them. They end up right at my feet, and I pat them on the head. And that's their first experience of what the tone means. And then they sit there at my feet for like 30 seconds to a minute, just quiet. It's just quiet, and I'm just petting them on the head. Good boy, good boy. And then I say, break, and I let them back outside, and I shut the door. All right? And they end up on the other side of the lawn again. It's like beep, 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 stim. I open up the door. The dog's already fucking running to me. It's right at my feet. If it goes past me, it's beep, beep, and the dog turns around and comes to my feet. So already from the beginning, the first rep, this is what it means, this is what it means. And then I say, yes, while your brain is thinking this is what the beep means, let me get a long line on you now and bring you out front where there is no fence so that I can generalize this. So then we go upstairs to the door to let them out the front. And I just open up the door and they go bolting out, which they're not supposed to. And it goes beep, correction, and they run back into the house and recall to me. And then we sit there for 30 seconds. You're really learning what beep means today. Good job. Pat on the head. But see, I'm only recalling at this point, going out this door, when the dog's really breaking the rules, that it doesn't know our rules because it won't listen to me at this point. It needs to go figure it out on its own. So now I open up the door and the dog doesn't go out. It just kind of stands there, looks out, and then looks at me, and I go, good, for looking at me. And then I step out and I look at the dog, and then I go, break, and the dog goes out, and I let the dog out. And then they go running away, like we have a 30-foot long line. So then they start trotting up the driveway or up the stairs to the driveway. And I go, beep, correction. And the dog runs and turns around and comes right to my feet and then sits. And then we sit there for 30 seconds to a minute. And what I mean by that, if I'm sitting there, like standing there or sitting there, and the dog just gets up and walks away, it's a recall and correction in that moment, just like I told you about. So we're just sitting there, keeping the dog there without keeping the dog there. I'm not holding the dog there. I didn't tell the dog to stay. I did not tell the dog to sit. I'm just giving it praise while it's there and affection. And then when it walks away, I'm correcting and recalling it. And then giving it affection. I'm not saying no to this dog. I'm not doing any of that. I'm the safe place. I'm the place the dog wants to be with right now. And then I say break, and I start walking away from the dog, and 9 times out of 10 the dog's following me now. And then I just walk around my property, and here and there I'll recall if the dog like steps off the property or gives me a reason to recall. But you're going to notice that beep's going to turn that dog right around and come to you. And I didn't have to do any long line work other than having the dog on the long line for safety. And then if it hits the end of it, I do have it to guide it if the dog gets stuck. But they're not getting stuck as much, to answer your question, Bethany, because they already had that experience downstairs. That means that they know they've had a successful handful of reps, that they know if they come to my feet, everything stops and it's good. So they keep coming to me. And so then it just sinks in. And then the next day I take them out and I repeat it, and it's like they got it. It's just, it's just how it goes. So I've learned to break the conversation down. Give them what you're going to need to know that this means to come to me before we go outside, But you can just take the leash, and if they're stuck, you go pop, and it heads them in your direction. You go, good boy, good girl, It's not that difficult of a concept and like understand how to do it, but you can fumble when you're new at this stuff. Like if you're using a long line and an e-collar and food, like I've done that before where I had food, e-collar, long line, dog, camera, and it's like you're fumbling over shit. So this is how I'm doing it now. I'm doing it through context to teach the command. Once the dog knows it, then I generalize it by bringing it to other places right away. Like I got that dog to understand that meant to come to me. He did it 3 times successfully. Let's go outside and generalize it right away so that I can start using it. Because for me, the recall is how I'm going to get everything else done. Because I keep you in that conversation now if I need something. And I don't want to sit here and start popping on you and making you stay here. I want your mind to be here. So, and that's how I do it. So it can look a little sloppy, especially if you're new at that style. But man, I'll tell you what, when a dog can't get out of a conversation, it's like they can't believe it. They can't believe that they actually have to listen to you. They can't believe it. And it's like, it's this new way that I've been doing it where I'm instead of like correcting them really firm after like 3 times, I'll just be like, I'll keep correcting firm enough, like enough to keep them coming back. But I'm just experimenting with seeing, well, what if I just keep asking you and not telling you exactly what I want because you're not listening yet. So I'm just recalling you and standing here and you get frustrated or bored and you walk away. What happens? Well, eventually what they do is they're begging you to like, what? And they look you in the eyes. I'm not saying every dog's going to react that way, but I have a lot of success with it, especially the easier dogs. They're kind of like look at you and say, what is, like, what am I not doing right? And then it's like, sit. And that's that tone I'm using to tell you, I want you to try something. And they're like, okay, well, what does sit mean? And so then I'll turn on, if you watch me, I don't use the remote exactly how I described it earlier with the pressure on and pressure off all the time. Although that approach works, and I will use that if I have to. Oftentimes I'll just tap a dog just to say like, try something. So I'll say sit, and they'll be like, and I'll go. And they'll feel it, and then I'll say sit. And then maybe they'll try something but not fully sit, and I'll say good. Good, because you're right. When you feel that and I'm engaged with you, it means you haven't done it right yet. Sit, And then you can put 2 fingers on the butt, get them to sit, whatever. Good. You see, a dog can start to understand that this doesn't mean a particular command. This means this is the human's way of holding you accountable for the commands that they're saying to you right now. And if you don't know what the commands are, you need to at least know that it means you need to try what the human's saying. And it just turns out that that's the easiest way to go about it, because we're not doing. Now, I'm not using food, typically, to get the dog motivated. I'm using this to motivate the dog. I'm saying, like, there's a problem I'm asking you to solve, and if you have too much attitude, it's going to take too long, and eventually the pressure's going to be firmer to motivate you to want to solve the problem quicker. But here's the thing. Once you realize that that's how the system works, you stop making me go there, and you just become compliant, and you just try faster. And then you realize that makes me very happy, and I pet you and we play, and then you realize that's the way to go. And you start doing that. And the dog starts changing the way they treat the humans. So I hope that made sense. I appreciate you guys coming in today. It's Thursday. E-collar training, it's phenomenal. I mean, all the dogs that I've helped, I don't know how I could have given the same amount of success to the owners without this fantastic device. I don't know if I could take the success that I have here and send it home to the degree that we do without this tool, because we capture the experiences on this here. And this is the same device that they're learning all this on, is the same language, and they go home with the same exact tool. And unlike the old leash work, it's like you have to rely on the skill of a untrained owner to do like a proper pop on a leash or a proper technique like that. The only thing they need to do is make sure they touch a button. Now it's a lot easier to go than it is to learn leash work and all that stuff. So this has been helping with the success of the owners. Obviously it helps me get dogs past what they need to get past, but sending them home on this is what keeps them so successful. If this went away, I think that level of success would go down, and we'd have to things would be even more expensive because we'd have to put a whole program towards training the owners even more. So it's an amazing tool, guys. Got any questions? Let me know. If you have any ideas for future topics, let me know. Also, I have an idea for a new type of content. We're going to be going on vacation soon. I know that doesn't happen often, guys. So we're taking a week off, and it's happening soon after this group of dogs. So I think there's one more dog coming in, and then we're going. So I'll be off from this for a little while, but I didn't want to drop doing lives altogether, because then it's hard to get back on. So I was thinking about doing like little lives. And it depends on the service. If the service will allow me to do it, even here on our property when we get back, just little moments throughout a training session that I might be able to pop you guys in, talk about something, and then pop off, just to kind of spice it up for a new way of getting some information out there. If I feel like it's something that I could be sharing with you guys, maybe we pop on a quick little live, talk about it, show you it, and then click off, and see if that can't become something that I find value in being able to teach you guys some of the stuff. We've been talking about it a lot. It would be cool if you guys could see some stuff, even if it's not live, or if Julie and I just put some time aside to set up a little something for Instagram, where we can show you some how-tos and a little bit more behind-the-scenes stuff. Let me know if you guys are interested in that. I'm looking to do something different because that's how I am. I want to keep doing the lives, but I want to make sure that I keep having something to offer. And I do think eventually, unless I get different people on here and talk to them, I feel like I got to show you. I feel like I need to show you guys the stuff rather than just talk about it. Talking's a great place to start, though. Appreciate you guys. Leave your comments down below of what you want to hear the next topic on, and I will see you guys tomorrow, Friday. So have a good day.